Guys, thank you very much for joining us. We have a surprise. We're very grateful to the organizers of the conference in San Diego for canceling, because now we have 2 webinars for the price of one. We have a team from Germany and a team from Belgium, but not soccer, right? Just research. And so our friends from Germany are going to start, and then Niclas is going to follow. We'll allow time for questions, of course. So, and you are all PhD students, right? But you're
postdoctoral.
oh, sorry. You look young, so that's why it's a compliment. So let's wait for our friends from Germany to come back, and then we get started. It's a little bit informal. It's research that should be of interest to you guys. So let's take advantage that they are here. So Anna and Niclas, well, right now just Niclas. If you guys want to start.
Yeah, and maybe wait 1 or 2 minutes.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're ready, and then.
Again, thank you so much for having us today. Amazing opportunity. We were supposed to be on a conference here, or in Long Beach, but well, it got cancelled like 2 years ago.
Did you at least get to go to the beach?
Huh?
In San Diego?
Actually, to the beach we didn't, but we'll do so in the next days. I mean, Anna and me, we're both staying for a longer time afterwards for vacation, obviously, doing a road trip.
Here we don't really know what the vacation is. Could you explain the concept?
Actually, I'm staying for 2.5 weeks. Full-time vacation. I mean, I don't know how many holidays you have.
We have 2 days per year, right? That's what we give.
It's your song get 3 days per year.
It is.
3 days per year.
Oh, because of the union.
And we often get Saturday and Sunday.
That union.
Some of us will not Sunday.
Actually, we have 30 holidays. Okay. And it's quite convenient, I would say. And I do like it. Yeah, actually, in terms of car, me and my brother's joining me afterwards. We took some irresponsible pickup because we thought, okay, US road trip, let's go for the Chevrolet pickup.
We're taking a chance here. American car. I don't know.
Drive it off the road, get the full experience.
Off the road?
Yeah, off the road.
Yeah, we tried to.
Nana is a guy if you want to those kind of exploratory experience. One time.
Drive it into the canyon.
You guys want to tell us a little bit about yourselves before you start?
Then I will introduce myself a bit. Yeah, we are both PhD students at Technical University of Munich in Germany, both into electrical trucks and how to somehow do this electrification. I started in 2023 with my PhD and will finish next year, hopefully. At least my contract ends next year. Yeah, I studied mechanical engineering in Karlsruhe, also in Germany, and partly in Sweden, in Stockholm. Did then my bachelor's and master's degree, and then switched to Munich to continue with my PhD.
Yeah, so nice to meet you as well from my side. I'm Anna. I'm also a PhD student at the same chair, and I've been studying industrial engineering in my bachelor's and master's in Germany, the UK, and the Netherlands. And yeah, now we're fully focusing, or I'm mostly focusing, but I'll show you more into detail on that. But I'm focusing on the transition of fleets. So what I gather is quite similar to your research, as well as the energy system connection or the transition of the energy systems connected to individual depots. Yeah, that's, I guess, our brief introduction. But we have quite some more details for you and quite some insights. Oh, we thought we combined some insights. So yeah, hopefully we'll happy to have an overview of it.
So are you open to questions too?
Oh, yes,
or do
sorry.
you want us to go?
And we're fully open for any questions and insights and
Just,
ideas.
just feel free to make a comment on that. We don't.
So actually, as you just said, maybe just briefly as an introduction, how does our institute look like and what do we research on? From what we understood, our research lab or the German system, it might be a bit different than the American system, or we're interested to find out more about that. But in our institute, we have one professor who has about 70 employees. And of that 70, around 45 are scientists like us. So if we say scientists, we mean, in our case, only PhD students and one postdoc. So I guess that's the first difference we have in our chair. And yeah, we instructed in 3 different labs. So we have the autonomous vehicle lab, the electric vehicle lab, and the smart mobility lab. And just for some impressions, so in case of our autonomous vehicle lab, we have a racing team, and they're also competing together with the Caltech University, for example. They have a racing league as well, so autonomous racing. And we have also a autonomous driving bus. And only just last week, they actually drove a completely new route in fully autonomous without any interactions in Berlin, which was quite some milestone, I guess, for our chair. Then, yeah, we have the electric vehicle lab and the smart mobility lab, which the 2 of us are from. Electric vehicle lab is basically focused on everything from battery cell technology and testing to E2G and electric vehicle fleet transitioning. And the smart mobility lab is mainly focusing on everything data related, so mobility data, multi-data analysis, and everything apart from autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, which includes mobility. And we have research projects which then intertwine or try to combine multiple research focuses, such as, for example, in our case, our project, which I will show you in a minute, is basically combining the electric vehicle lab as well as the smart mobility. So that's our idea of try out to be a bit more interdisciplinary, I guess, in that regard. Any are your first impressions on that, or is it similar to yours? No.
Quite different, but you want to explain? I mean, we can talk about it afterwards.
Yeah,
Sure.
Sure. Be interesting to see.
And I already told you there are some spin-offs from our chair. The most recent one is Sprite on the right side, which is about some platform economy for electric trucks. Also charging card, and maybe also do reservations of charging points, which I will highlight later also, because it's also my research actually. Twice is some battery SOH estimation startup. Lion Smart, they do actually batteries, same as in Venox. The Sandra Evum, unfortunately, doesn't exist anymore. We should remove that. And DriveLogs is also into trucks, but autonomous trucks. Just to give you some impression that the research we do also partly results in spin-offs, which is quite nice, I guess. I already told you about Fright, about the truck itself. Our truck history at our chair is now maybe 10 years old. And what we focus on in the whole logistics area is mainly the electrification for sure. So Revolution is a tool where you model your depot, or you can model your depot with the whole electrical power units, your trucks, your charging stations, your photovoltaic and stuff, and basically can build a digital twin of your depot and somehow figure out how much photovoltaic you might need in future. So this is a very broad tool to use. We go into vehicle-to-grid operations, how to optimize it, different markets like day-ahead market, flexibility trading and stuff, and also the charging reservations, en route charging or a depot to reserve a charging point there. The next in the middle is more the smarty topic about this whole traffic simulation and the network design, where you can place the charging stations, how to operate hub-to-hub operation of trucks, where they switch trailers, and also, yeah, emergency vehicle dispatch is a bit different topic about police, firework, and how to dispatch those vehicles in an emergency case in an optimized way. And the next part is the fleet management. So looking from one vehicle up to the whole fleet, how to operate it in a broader view, let's say.
You know, when you talk about truck electrification, what class of truck are you focusing on?
It's mostly long-haul trucks and heavy-duty trucks. So everything above, I would say, 16 tons, up to 40 tons. There was some research from former colleagues who also look at smaller last mile delivery with 3.5 tons and stuff. But right now we are more focusing on the long haul application with heavy duty trucks.
When you say long haul, what does long haul mean in the European countries?
And we're looking mainly on the classes and free class.
Okay.
And long, we will show you some data later, but then long haul in our case means like more than 100 kilometers. But it's our own definition of how
It's actually the case when en route charging needs to take place. Yeah, well, in future, you can see some external factors on the side, which somehow shape our future research we want to do, which is about, yeah, really the vehicle to grid charging, bidirectional charging, or the whole energy integration, system integration can work with all the trucks being electrified in future, hopefully. Also, the hub-to-hub is more about the electrification combined with automation of trucks, so that you don't have the drivers anymore and not the HOS limitations combined to it. And what we're shaping right now is a bit the Internet of trucks, how this whole ecosystem can look like. If you have some, yeah, truck OS maybe, and some applications from third party or your own party, you can apply on within your truck. So what are current projects and completed projects? Well, we had a recent project Nefton on the left side, which was on the single vehicle, how to electrify it. How large must the battery be? What limitations do you have? What charging power do you actually need? Is it 1 megawatt or even up to 3 megawatts maybe? Or is even 400 kilowatts enough with the CCS standard? Actually, I'm not sure what standards are here for the chargers itself. In Europe, we have the CCS and MCS standard. The Atlas project was more about automation, level 4 on highways, how to automate those trucks or the operation, which is quite challenging still for sure. Maybe the smaller vehicles, passenger vehicles and so on, and small buses might be the easier case, but let's see. And right now we both work on the Spirit E project, which goes to the next level from the single vehicle up to the whole fleet. How we can integrate those fleets in the operation, how we can integrate all the people, also with the energy system integration. In that case, Anna continues.
Yes, so as Niclas just mentioned, the idea behind the Spirit E project stems from the controversial debate whether bidirectional charging is actually, or V2G, as you might want to call it, is actually useful for trucks. So because in our in the preparation of that recent project, what we heard often is that bidirectional charging doesn't make any sense for heavy duty trucks, as trucks only make money, or the main reason for trucks to make money is when they're driving and not on the road and delivering items. And within our project, the idea was that we'd like to question it and to see whether it actually is the case, or is there some potential for economic use cases for bidirectional charging heavy duty trucks. And to do that, as we do, we looked at data. And in our case, we collected data from 6 different arbitrary German fleets, with the difference of 5 to 90 trucks in the fleets from 6 different, very different freight forwarding companies. And here you see the cumulative share of vehicles where they stood. So the POI, so anonymized, of course, to the different POIs of OSM target. And in the collection, we see that also how that looks like over the course of an average day. And what we took out of this, one of the inputs, is that the home base, so the most, over all the fleets, the most time the trucks are actually sitting idle at home. So there is quite some potential to use that time where the trucks are just resting at home and not being used actively on the road. And that is the database or the main motivation why we took that as an insight to really look into bidirectional charging and the potential that could bring. And how we could connect it. Yeah, sure.
Sorry. The numbers fleet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is different applications or different fleets, or that's all long haul?
I know that's different applications. So it's ranging even within one fleet. We're differentiating. Oh, it's differentiating between just short haul transfer, like just how to delivery route basically, and up to 600 kilometers per tour. So it's fully diverse, and it was even more impressive or even more motivating for us to see that even if we take completely different tours and completely different fleets with different driving profiles, we still see that most of them are sitting idle quite a bit of time. And maybe as a data background, those were 6 randomly chosen German freight forwarding companies which were willing to share the data with us. And we installed data loggers like OBD loggers inside of the trucks and collected the data ourselves. So of course you even need to find someone who are willing to share the data. And of course we took a lot of time and thorough analysis into anonymizing them, not sharing any sensitive data.
I do, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, can you characterize the range of like fleet sizes? As we were talking before, there's a lot of diversity of fleets, and many fleets here are single operators. So I'm just curious, in Germany, is that similar, and does your sampling reflect the population in Germany?
It does not, unfortunately. So it's not really, you can't size it up to the whole of German's truck fleet. The trucks or the fleets here differ from, the smallest fleet has 4 trucks, and the largest fleet is 9 above. But they're operated by themselves. So we don't have individual truck owners, but they're owned by the companies in itself, which is only why they were able to do that. So we also have to consider that we have individual truck drivers who own the trucks and get subcontracted. But in this case, those were trucks owned by the companies.
And all of these fleets primarily engage in long-haul operations, or some of them short-haul operators around ports or otherwise?
Yes, and they are owned randomly. Some of them are short-haul, some are long-haul, and some are mixed or operating depending on what the required asset is or the required tour job.
And there weren't any big variations between long-haul versus short-haul?
Yeah, maybe actually later, but the underlying data is also publicly available, so I can share the link with you.
Great for that. What's remarkable is that home base is such an important percentage
Yes,
of
yes.
their. I mean, is that normal use? I mean, would the economy slow, or is that?
No,
Yeah.
it's normal use.
Normal use,
So
okay.
they've got big four the economy is slowed down even more. But no, that's normal use. What might be important to see is it's OSM POI tax. So the home base stands for different hubs. So it's not only one base, but for example, in Fleet 6, they have multiple locations.
Okay.
So also where the trucks are just randomly across all of Germany, they have multiple locations, but it's got tagged as home. That's maybe
Are
important.
there any regulations we should be aware of as far as what percentage of time a given truck can be on the road in Germany?
Yes. Sorry, Niclas would add more to that, but it's you can ride up 4.5 hours, and then you need to take a 40-minute break.
But no time as far as like in a 24 or 48-hour interval, the truck has to be idle or something.
No,
And this is per driver or per vehicle?
vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah, so per driver, sorry, per driver. And if we have the construct where we have 2 drivers, then of course they don't need to rest in between. And which is also why you see the rest area seems to be quite small, like the violet part. But it's also because they don't all the rest times can also be taken at service areas or industrial areas. So and some of those tours did have this 2 driver shift method, then they didn't have to take a break in between.
So I might be missing in the middle. So how they identify the locations?
It's just those M tags. So we have the 1 hertz, or we lock the data in 1 hertz and 10 hertz frequency data, and then use those POI tags to see where the GPS coordinates matched those tags. And that's how we identify this. We try to make them as overarching as possible. So that's why we chose the most important ones and applied them.
One last question. How hard was it to recruit fleets?
Difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so same as here. Gotcha.
Okay, of course, people were hesitant to turn it in. So, which is why we're even more happy to have them now. And we have the workflow how to anonymize them thoroughly to make them happy and willing to share more data.
Maybe one comment to the regulations. You are allowed to drive 1.5 hours when you have 45-minute break, but you can also split it in 15 to 30 minutes. And then you can again drive 4.5 hours. And then you need to take a rest break, which is normally 11 hours, but can be up to 3 times per week reduced to 9 hours. And but then you sometimes have to have 2 or 3 days where you really use your 11 hours. It's a bit complicated, but there are regulations.
So yeah, that's why, or that's where we noticed, okay, there's actually lots of time that trucks is idle. And that's why we created this, that was the main motivation for having our research projects routine. And just quickly how a research or this research project looks like. So we have, so you can see lots of partners. There's a research institutes, OEM, truck manufacturers, but also charging infrastructure providers, and everyone else basically connected on this working flow. So we really try to get everyone on board who might be related to from the truck to actually grid connection, and have everyone who might be involved combined. So yeah, that was one of the project, of course, and just even getting to know whom it takes to be on board for that question was quite some work. And once we did that, we did all that to accelerate the electrification of heavy-duty transport by looking at the efficient and most importantly sustainable use of the trucks, and looking at the integration into the grid, and also motivating or showing that there is there is economic potential looking at this holistic view basically, and integrating it into the economic and the energy system. So yeah, maybe just as a I guess official theoretical background, when we're talking about fractional charging, or we might later on we're talking about flexibilities. Maybe just briefly, I guess most of you know, but what do we mean by flexibility? In this case, or what we see in the energy usage is that we have a mismatch between energy or renewable energies being generated, mainly in this case solar energy, versus the energy demand. as we saw now in the truck fleet data, for example, most trucks come home in the evenings and then they need to charge, but they aren't there or they aren't at the depot during the day where most of the solar or renewable energy is being generated. So of course, there's this mismatch in demand versus generation. So the idea now arises, what if we were to use or we shorten that mismatch and we create some kind of flexibility assets? And of course, there's the normal way of using flexibility or creating this using stationary storage, even better stationary battery energy storage systems. But of course, vehicles may also be used as storage options. And that's the idea of the bi-directional trucks, because of course, the passenger vehicles are also a nice way to do so, but the capacities of the batteries is way lower. And especially having the lithium-ion batteries enables us to provide this flexibility really in short notice, and we don't need to have some long waiting times to actually be able to use that flexibility in energy and power. So that's as a motivation. And what if we're talking about flexibility use cases, in our case, we're talking about different economic as well as technical use cases. Of course, the most well-known, I guess, flexibility use cases are arbitrage trading. So basically, trading on the grid market. So buying electricity when prices are low and selling them when they are high. And of course, then we have also some quite important grid stabilization services. And I know there's a bit difference in the German or European market versus the US one, but we have, for example, primary reserve. It's called so it's fast, it's shorter than 30 seconds, and you create, or the idea is to have an automatic stabilization of the power grid to rest with the 50 hertz frequency. And then we have secondary reserve, which is slower, which would be 30 seconds to 5 minutes, and then again using it as a stabilization of the grid. And you get funded or you get rewarded financially by just providing the potential to get the energy, but then you also get rewarded once you actually provide the energy. But that's still under discussion or development how that will actually look like. But those are the German or European use cases in flexibility markets. Yeah, and then we also look at, again, the motivation is now how much is the economic potential actually if we combine this flexibility trading with our tours, with our trucks, with our fleets. And just as an idea, so talking about prices, I'm sorry, that's now in euros, in euro cents, but we take in our case, we consider public charging to cost 93 cents per kilowatt hour. And if we now have, if we can charge our trucks at their own depot, we get a better pricing due to regulations, which is in our case 20 to 26 cents per kilowatt hour. If we now use different V2G use cases, it looks whole different. And firstly, looking at the V1G, we like to call it, so unidirectional charging or just smart charging, we can bring this price down by like 20 and 30%. And so it's just by load shifting or load balancing using photovoltaic systems and basically optimizing their own grid. But it's all in front of the meter, so we're not trading anything. Now looking into V2G charging, we can actually lower the price even further by further 10 to 20%. So if we now look at really arbitrage trading, grid services and everything behind the meter, this price can be lowered even further. And of course, there's quite some economic potential resulting out of this. But this potential doesn't make sense for everyone. So those low prices, so actually lowering the price by 20 to 30% only makes sense for trucks that do have this driving profile, which do rest at home quite often. So most often it's regional trucks that come home early to make this flexibility possible. Trucks that are parked during the weekends for services and backup, and also trucks that or fleets that have lower mileage, or yearly or daily driving mileage. In our case, we noticed that if we're below 100,000 kilometers per year, this is the economic use case for those using V2G. And if we have this case, for example, what we mentioned earlier, where we have two truck drivers driving all the time, of course, they won't be resting idle as often. So the economic potential is going down. And the potential is also only valid if we do have depots with photovoltaic systems and high energy demand. Otherwise, the potential is way lower. Yes, so yeah. Sorry.
So there's benefits 10 to 20% on the grid charging. Did you consider then in your economic analysis or financial analysis the extra costs of then the vehicle to charging? So what is the situation on vehicle to grid charging right now?
Great question. No, it's not included yet. So it's there's no hardware included in this regulations. But there are more and more companies who are building bi-directional possible charging infrastructure, like partners in our case, but it's not included in the complex situation.
So one question, do you have any insights of how the German or European Union insurance and liability market works as far as, say, one of these trucks connects to a public charger and there's an incident there? Is the charger company liable? Is the trucking company liable? Does it depend? Do they split it? And how would that, the insurance premiums factor into the economic balance?
I mean, in the economic evaluation here, it's not included. And it is an open topic because, yeah, I mean, it's the insurance companies aren't that far to somehow have a look at it. Where we first start now is somehow evaluating what does that mean for the battery of the truck, that the logistics company somehow can know, okay, when I do bi-directional charging, I have more discharging and charging events. My battery will degrade somehow faster, and companies are currently figuring out how to price that basically. And this is also in combination with insurance companies somehow. But about the incidents, it's not on the table.
Yeah, I know for some American companies, that's one of the major holdups for electric vehicle adoption for fleets, especially if they don't have their own private charging or reliability, is the extra insurance premiums and costs for that. Big factor.
Just by speaking to the companies, is that the most, well, the biggest firms are prices, but just like this initial pricing of bets is higher than ISET, so that's the holdup. And also having, actually the biggest one is needing to convince the drivers to be willing to drive electric. So that was actually quite surprising for us, but that's one of the main reasons why we're not that quick into electric.
And is servicing taken into account as well, as far as, we might need higher skilled, more specialized mechanics?
No. That's just the initial economic. We haven't read them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have one question. I think economy largely depends on the capacity of the battery and also the technology of the battery, right? What kind of a capacity and the technology of the battery?
So in this case, they're always taking the MIM ETGX, which has 485 kilowatt hours.
Okay.
So that's a range of 300.
I don't know. So 400 kilometers. Oh, sorry, I don't know.
It's about 250 miles. So you are not considering to kind of like an extra capacity for those kind of V2G kind of services. I see some, potential there. You are driving a big battery around. Okay. If you really.
It's a great question, and there's still the OEM truck manufacturers are still debating how to cooperate with that. But what's maybe important to know is that in EU we have quite strict regulations regarding sizing and weight of the trucks.
Okay.
So there's quite a trade-off. We can't just make our trucks bigger or heavier, just use more battery capacity. But so it's quite a trade-off in how large we would size them.
So your analysis is essentially based upon reproducing existing behavior, right? And because one option in systems like this, when you're changing the core technology, is to re-engineer what you're doing in the system to match the technology better and take advantage of the technology. And we had a project looking at off-road equipment. And we were talking to Volvo, right? And Volvo was talking about how they redesigned, it was a mining site, I think, and how if they looked at the site itself as a new engineering problem, rather than just saying, well, we're going to swap in electric equipment, they said, let's redesign the site to leverage the advantages of the electric equipment. And they actually increase the efficiency and performance of the site by redesigning what they're doing. And so the question here, and whatever the open-ended question here is can you redesign the operations to better match the technology? Maybe you have more trucks, but they're smaller, right? And you're,
So in that sense, your results would be lower bounds, right? They could do better, essentially. Right?
Sure, yeah. And this is just the initial.
of course, no. I'm just throwing things out there.
Yeah, for sure. But actually, so this was then, this is just the initial calculation of what we took for then creating the project or analyzing the project. And maybe, yeah, I guess it's quite similar, but how does this research project journey look like for us? So this research project Spirit E, which is looking at the whole topic I just showed you, is set for 3 years. So at first again, the topic of humans, I guess we needed to find a freight forwarding company who's willing to actually build with us the bidirectional charging lab and to provide the rooms for also foreign or other trucks from other companies to actually charge the location. So there we after multiple discussions, we chose 2 companies, or we picked 2 companies. And then we went into like defining all the setup, really defining the use cases and seeing where the most potential lies, which is basically what you just saw. And then in April 2025, we actually had the first bidirectional charging or V2G, it was V2 site in that case, demonstration with the MAN ETGX truck, but it was on site at MAN still. And at the same time, we started building the charging unit at the freight forwarding company we picked. And quite surprisingly, actually, one of the reasons this took a bit longer than expected was the regulatory issues. Because at the energy providers nowadays, the DSO wasn't fully, to say the least, it was surprised, I guess, but by what we were planning on doing. And there are still not any regulatory mechanisms in place for using like charging trucks with that capacities, let alone recharging them into the grid. So they were quite surprised. And we did have to talk to quite a few people and how to do that. And in the end,
how to do this Germany or with the EU?
It's Germany.
Oh, Germany.
Yeah, it's completely different every European country as well. What you might know, maybe. We needed to. Or there's lots of individual discussions happening, and in the end, in our case, we now provide them an Excel table with time slots when our truck will charge and recharge with power, and they take that into consideration. So.
You mean for generation? For what?
I know for the V2G.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But also charging. So yeah, there's still lots of changes that need to take place to make that fully scalable, I guess.
Are these agreements with individual utility companies or DSOs or some national grid operators?
Just DSOs.
DSOs, yeah.
And we have about 800 in Germany. So for that specific locations, we went for the location. In that case, we went to the specific DSO responsible for that location. And
is there an effort to try to standardize these agreements?
yes.
Is there a standardization PI or at the national level, federal level?
Not as
No, it's at the state level, probably, right?
it would be, yes.
Yeah.
It would be at the state level.
But is there an effort to make them federal?
I mean, not officially, but there are discussions. What there is at least going into the direction is the task between union projects, and they're talking more and more about interoperability of V2G and what needs to be done to make standardization even be talked about. So we're in that stage.
The problem for the DSOs is also in their grid. They sometimes don't even have information what's happening in detail. We have smart meters are about 25% of all facilities that have a smart meter. and it's almost impossible for them to track all the energy that's flowing. So they need to start there, and then we can continue to the bidirectional cables.
Is there any kind of plan to install smart meters everywhere?
For new buildings, you're forced to build
Okay.
to use a smart meter, and
It's a while to just rely on new buildings, right?
and also install photovoltaic. You need to install a new smart meter for sure. Yeah, so there are ideas how to solve it, but it takes.
Like I'm having questions regarding the charger. I'm curious how fast, I mean like big amount of electricity truck can handle to get in and get like give it back to the site. So do you have any idea the number of like how fast the amount of electricity power the truck can get and give it back to the site?
Yeah, in our case, so the charger is able to provide 400 kilowatt in both directions, or would in theory be able to. And we did 350 kilowatt V2G, and it took us like 2 minutes-ish. So what?
So yeah, it really depends what you really need. At your Home Depot, you might need slower charging or less power, as you probably only charge during the night with more time, and the on-route charging might need higher powers up to megawatts and so on.
Yeah, so that actually, we showed that in one of first instances worldwide where we did vehicle to vehicle with such high power, so the 350, and vehicle to site, so we went into full island mode in that case, and then we did 305 kilowatts into the medium voltage grid. So vehicle to grid. We would have been able to go higher, but we had some limitations from regulator side, so that's why we went 305 kilowatts.
So did you consider any like lower bound, upper bound for discharging and charging? Or did you just deplete the batteries like all the way to 0 or 10% or something?
I mean, for this showcase, we just need to, or we had to somehow set the vehicle to be somewhere in SOC range where it can provide this energy and also charge with this energy. For the discharging, it's up to optimization in the operation itself, which ranges you really provide. Maybe this will also be up to the operator when it's in operation to set its own limits. That he says, okay, I will give you the flexibility from 25% to 80% or less or more, depending on how risky you are willing to operate.
How the vehicle to site, how long would you put, or yeah, how long would you, or no, how long could you be in that state with one truck? So for example, if you mentioned the situation where the trucks stay overnight, if you would charge them over during the day with PV panels that are available, could you then run the whole plant or the whole depot with one truck? Yeah, okay.
The whole site had a peak load of 250 kilowatts.
Alright.
And so the background picture you might see here, this one, that was actually fully powered by this truck at this moment.
So everything you see lining up, it was during the winter, so the heating as well was powered by the truck.
Okay.
But we only tested it for a couple of minutes, so
Okay, but technically it would be,
technically it would be possible. So that's, but that's the first thing we're only looking at, or we've been looking at through the publicity project, and now we're looking into V2X reservation. So how can other companies book a slot for charging as well as discharging, depending on the use case provided at this location? And also behind it, how does the flexibility, or how is the flexibility trading looking like? So we're doing paper trading in the background, meaning that the regulatory regulatory situation isn't as far as doing it really, like actually trading power and energy. So we're doing it's called paper trading. So basically simulating the whole energy and power market in the background. And that's happening in the current months. So hopefully you'll find out soon how that turns out. So this is the big project I guess we're working on, and now we provided some insights into. So it's currently 5 of us, or 5 people at our chair looking into track electrification or logistics topic in general, track topics in general. And we have a couple of, so on the left-hand side, you'll see the name of the person researching that. So our colleague Marcel, for example, is really focusing on exactly what I just talked about, so the flexibility trading and flexibility commercialization for battery electric truck fleets. And he's differentiating between different kinds of flexibility, in his case, so time, energy, and power flexibility, and what's the economic potential given different tractors and driving profiles, and how should they adapt to
When you say the economic potential, are you talking at the fleet level or at the country level?
At fleet level.
Because it would be kind of interesting to see, I mean, just back of the envelope, what the potential of this would be. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so I guess the idea would be in that case to then scale up this simulation for one depot to others. Actually, it's quite interesting. All of our research is focusing on, or most of our research is focusing on one track.
But if you assume, penetration, say 80% of the fleets are doing that, what would it mean for investment in power plants, for a number of things, right? At the country level.
And we're actually planning on looking into that even more. So
Makes sense, of course.
Yeah, but this is only who he's looking into in his research into how one fleet should adapt accordingly, and how also what is the most promising energy use case in the background. So he's basically looking into individual time and energy strains, as you see here, for each individual track or batch. And he's using, or one of the main difficulties he's in fact or trying to solve is doing the prediction from the fleet management system, because of course you need to know when, what times, and with what SOC the trucks will be arriving at the specific depot. So how would this prediction have to look like, or how detailed does this prediction actually have to be to achieve what kind of economic potential? So that's also something he's looking into and doing some uncertainty modeling in regards to that.
Sorry, I'm not a very good student. I was not paying attention. You have different electricity rates during the day, right?
Yes.
And this is reflected, of course, in his rates. Okay.
So did you guys talk about study on the location-based flexibility as well? Because you about time and so I'm thinking under emergency situation, this system could be tremendously helpful.
Yes, that's actually one of the ideas, that in case of emergency, all those trucks would be used as energy storage, of course. As far as I know, he's not looking into the topic of resilience so far, but it's actually also something we're looking into in our new research or potential new research project, which currently the state of or the name would be V2 resilience. So how could we use, or what would be the potential of actually looking at resilience? It lies closely, to think about it. And but what he is basically looking into is predicting all the different individual trucks, and then in some way aggregating the whole fleet into a virtual battery with regards to mobility and flexibility, and then using that as an input to do the trading bit. So he has an optimization running where he's looking into multi-market flexibility trading and what the different potentials would be, and how or what the additional revenue would be, also considering battery degradation, for example, already in that case. So that's the most closely related, I guess, to the Spirit E research project topic. And yeah, if you looking for some research correlations, maybe it's interesting to see if those are his specific research questions. So again, economic value, the virtual battery topic, how to aggregate data, what different electricity markets are reasonable for which kind of tour and fleet, and how to deal with the uncertainty and giving the flexibility monetization.
So what defines an electricity market in this case?
So that basically in this case means everything in front of the meter. So sorry, behind the meter. So all the use cases I showed to you before, like arbitrage trading, intraday trading. Oh, sorry, that's the European markets basically in this case.
Because you have probably different providers in different areas, right? Even within a single German state, right?
Yeah. We do, but it's more and more being talked about being aggregated. So that in that case, the idea is that you have a technical as well as market aggregator. So the market aggregator is basically combining all the energy that could be or power that could be provided, and then doing the trading in the background at one instance. So you don't have individual traders.
But from the point of view of fleet, it's an area that has a specific rate, right? And then you have another area that may have different rates and that type of thing. Or are all the rates essentially the same in the whole state?
They're similar, yeah.
They're similar, oh, okay.
Yes, there's one market in Leipzig, and that's where the trading happens.
I'm so sorry.
In Leipzig, there's one market where the trading happens.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's sales research, and now that's
In that case, my research. So yeah, I already introduced it a bit in the beginning. I'm researching about the operation strategy for the battery electric trucks, considering the limited charging infrastructure we have and we will have. So the infrastructure is more or less, or the positions of the stations is more or less fixed. And yeah, well, I guess you already know the challenges that arise with the battery electric trucks. If I want to drive to my destination, my battery won't be able to make me reach my destination, so I need to recharge somewhere. But this is quite okay because I need to do my rest break anyways, the 45 minutes after 4.5 hours, so I can somehow combine it. The question in that case is, where do I charge? Where do I stop? I can apply some optimization approaches to choose the best station. Problem is now with a limited infrastructure that there are other trucks competing for this infrastructure. Yeah, I might not be able to recharge at this station when I arrive, so there are waiting queues. Maybe also different prices. If you think of dynamic pricing, when I arrive at a different time, at a different location. And so one idea to overcome this problem of too less infrastructure and those waiting times, waiting queues, is to implement a reservation system. So I'm partly looking at this reservation system if it makes sense on a whole German level. Yeah, so we have this both sides. On one side, the electric truck, which needs to somehow fulfill his trips very efficiently, less time consuming, and on the other side, the charging infrastructure. They have high investments for building up the infrastructure, so they need high utilization. And the reservation system might be the best case to somehow level those both sides. And in more general speaking, yeah, how can I operate my trucks and the infrastructure to somehow make it feasible? For that, I implemented, or I worked on an agent-based model. In terms of time, I won't go too much into detail. It's Python-based. The framework is called Mesa. Quite recently.
Who developed it?
Sorry?
Who developed Mesa?
Mesa is Ter Höven. I think he's from Netherlands or Great Britain, as far as I know. But that is a basic framework where you can just apply all your implementation for your own agent-based model. So maybe also keep that confidential. It's not yet public. basically you have some pre-processing where all the routing is done. I take origin destination pairs through whole Europe and cut them at the German border. So you have the whole traffic from 1 year in Germany. And I use this as my electric truck population basically. And I have the charging infrastructure as charging agents, let's say. And the routing itself is done completely in the pre-processing so that the simulation itself runs faster. For that, I use Grasshopper, custom implementation of a truck profile. And during this routing, all the charging stations that are on the route are already stored in its route information, but not yet which station he wants to drive later on. This is done in the simulation itself. And in that case, yeah, there's some vehicle module, the behavior model for each CPO agent, the truck agent, specific battery modules you can set.
So it's a truck agent, not a fleet agent.
It's a truck agent, yeah.
Okay.
So did I say fleet agent?
No.
No.
I said that.
This
No.
this is a debate we're having internally
Yeah.
in one of our projects.
No, because I mean, stupid question. I'm sorry, since you allowed me to interrupt.
No.
Since, I mean, especially given the research that you guys discussed initially, right? Would it not make sense in a way to model this at the fleet level? Or do you think it's not, you don't lose much by talking about individual trucks instead?
So you mean
Like you follow the different trucks and, you know, you have chargers at home base and stuff, so they're gonna take into account what they are jointly doing and what is within the firm as opposed to outside the firm. Would that not influence what happens in the whole system to some extent?
I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly. The thing is, here, this is one truck agent, but as I'm looking at the whole country, there are about, right now I'm looking at 50% electrified, so there's about 20,000 trucks per day, which I'm simulating.
You know, I think in this particular application, the fleet aspect actually comes into the pre-processed tour routing, where you're
Okay.
kind of laying the trucks out on the routes that they're going, which would be
Not for the charging.
probably a fleet level decision. But once they're in operation, you're optimizing the charging based upon the behavior of individual trucks. on
Yeah,
the fleet
that's
network.
Okay.
I do have one question as well. I was gonna wait to the end of it since we're already doing this. Can you charge vehicle to vehicle?
In this
No, I mean, I don't know if you did it in the simulation, but technologically, but also in the simulation. One vehicle charge and then take its charge and give it to another vehicle.
And in like in practical, yes, that's what's showed in the project.
Mhm.
So that's actually the most easy bit of vehicle to vehicle charging. Simulation.
not in the simulation.
What type of driver behavior are you modeling in this simulation?
So it's a completely rule-based behavior actually. So there are right now two different behavior models, let's say. And with behavior model, I mean that when they are driving, they at some point decide, okay, I need to plan my stops now. And then there's running a planning algorithm, which might be the farthest reachable, I call it, where they try to reach the farthest reachable possibility, or a heuristic where they scan all the stations on the route and figure out which one might be the best stop. There's some weighing function which gives him in the end the best option, but it's not yet optimized, to be fair.
The stop planning is not done during routing.
No, it's afterwards. That's major thing, yes, because you can also do the route planning with complete other routes, where you can have completely different stations. My assumption is, okay, they have their route, which they plan without all the stations. And then afterwards they are looking, okay, which stations are on this route, and then I decide this 1D problem basically. It's a great simplification for sure.
do you have a real-time data fed into the system to kind of the formal kind of digital twin? Kind of thing?
What
Not yet.
yeah.
But you have ODs, of course, actual ODs, right?
Yeah, I mean, all the data I use is statistical data from the Kraftfahrtbundesamt. It's
It's like a freight survey.
yeah. I mean, they track trucks on those what is it called?
Loop detectors?
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Oh.
And then they get the daily utilization or how many trucks are driving passing by daily, and based on that they build up this statistic data, also with questionnaires and stuff for sure.
Do you have an idea of how accurate the loop detectors are in Germany? So I know in the US, pretty not so good.
I don't know.
In your simulation, every single bead like bag can get any access to every charger from CPUs, or like, or in terms of some fleet, maybe like Dr. Daniel mentioned, some kind of like trucks from like specific fleet or specific company can only get access to specific CPUs, chargers.
Might be an interesting fact to investigate for sure. Right now they can go to any CPU they want. But yeah, for sure.
Can I ask you the $1 million question? So Germany is the number one economy in the EU, right? You're number one exporter. That means a lot of your truck traffic doesn't stop at the border, of course, right? I mean, I think you export to France a lot, and I mean, Netherlands, all over the place, right? Why, in a way, why stop at the border? Is it a data question? I know doing the EU
It's
crazy, right?
actually computational power.
Okay.
It's a bit sad, honestly.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah, I somehow need to limit it. You can actually set your area you want to investigate. You can even use the whole European area, but then you need some good machine.
But maybe you know the percentage, right? What's the percentage of tracks that are actually leaving the borders?
Yeah, that's a good question.
How do you mean it?
Right, what's the percentage of all like the track
mileage.
trade that
Yeah.
are ending their trades or starting their trades outside the borders of Germany?
Well, I can track this amount, but yeah, right now.
I don't know if it's just like adding up.
Yeah, but yeah, sure. Yeah.
I've been interesting.
So yeah, I'm planning to publish it open source. Good thing is it has a modular structure, so you can just apply a new vehicle module, a new behavior module, new batteries, new truck specifications, however you want. Yeah, I think we need to go a bit faster now in terms of time. No, it's up to us. We are talking too much. So yeah, battery modeling. Yeah, it's just a typical CCCV controller installed for the charging and also discharging. And the power needed relies on this consumption parameterization, which is coupled to the total vehicle mass based on applications actually. The thing also why I use this CCCV curve is because there is no real charging curves available from truck operators. There's this one consulting company, P3, I think. They have this charging index for electric vehicles. As far as I know, they're also working on one charging index for trucks, but this is not published yet. So yeah, waiting for it. And this is the charging infrastructure I use. The blue dots are parking locations where you can only park. So the truck can also decide if they only want to park or also park and charge. And depending on that, they can also, yeah, they also choose parking sites to just make a break for 15 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever they want. The CPO sites are based on the current infrastructure goal from the Bundesregierung in Germany, which they want to have installed until 2035. Not sure if this will work out here. And every site has a specific grid connection power assigned to it. And then we're talking about 5 megawatts, 10 megawatts, and so on. And well, already told you, Craig, earlier, this takes ages, about 5, 6, 7 years to somehow get your grid connection power. As Germany is, everything about regulatories is very slow. Yeah, then I will show you some preliminary results about some basic investigation, which concepts of operation have the highest potential somehow to make this operation possible. So I varied different electrification rates, so how many trucks of the whole population is electrified, and then I'm only looking at this part. So let's say 5%, 10%, 15% of the whole population is electrified. And I compare it to the diesel truck ICE as a baseline in terms of trip duration and how much time I need additional when I need to charge on the route. Yeah, rest time breaks, we already talked about this. You can split it 45 minutes in 15 plus 30 minutes. And during the night, I just assume 11 hours. It's a bit complicated if you have those different possibilities to make breaks. So what you can see now is on the left side, maybe also keep this confidential, it's not published yet. The trip duration loss, the relative compared to the ICE. In this case, I named it smart planning. So the one planning strategy, the farthest reachable, that you try to reach the farthest reachable station, and the heuristic where it can even split their brakes, only make a brake without charging, with charging, and so on. And what you can see on the x-axis, the share of the electrified trucks. So on the right side, the 15%, which is the maximum I can currently simulate. And on the left side, the 5%. And I would say the heuristic is a bit smarter, as they can also split their brakes. And this only gets relevant for higher electrification rates. The charging infrastructure is kept the same for all simulations. And yeah, for the higher electrification rates, there are more trucks trying to charge. So there will be queues. And when they have more flexibility of what stop to choose, of course, it's getting better. So probably I need to do some more simulation with even higher electrification rates, up to 20%, 25 maybe. Let's see if I get those capabilities. And always on the other side, the utilization of the CPO, where you can see that actually the utilization is for the farthest reachable, for the, let's say, stupid planning strategy better. Because, well, of course, when the trucks just try to reach the farthest reachable, there are longer queues at those charging stations. Looking at the next point, which might be interesting, is the charger composition in terms of MCS chargers, CCS chargers, and I call them low power chargers for overnight charging. It's hard to tell, or make an assumption what is best. So I think it's might be interesting to do some optimization approach for this charger composition. Looking at the bed side, but also on the CPO side. So this is just some first results where I don't have a real you need to optimize it, honestly. Next idea, to have some interaction between the truck and the CPO, some communication about existing waiting times at the moment. So the orange curve gives the not informed truck. He just goes to the charging station and sees, oh, there's quite a long queue. This might take a while. And the other two are informed. The one is, so informed means the CPO evaluates how long the queue will be. The dark red is at arrival time, he will inform the truck, and the red one is 15 minutes in advance. Currently, my utilization is that high. You can decide if you want to come or not. And it, of course, lowers the utilization on the right side because trucks then say, okay, in that case, I won't come. But on the trip to time loss, there's some improvement for high electrification rates. Then the next idea, what I already said, is the reservation of charge points. Again, this gets dominant for high electrification rates. Sure, before that, the queues aren't that long. Okay, for lower charging, for lower electrification rates, it's not better because you have this they're distributed equally over the charging stations.
So don't you expect also in Germany that electrification is going to come partly with automation? And would that not change? I mean, a self-driving truck, they don't need to pose as much, right?
Yeah, true.
Is it not right?
Would be the best case, definitely. I'm not sure if this will happen.
Okay.
Because
that would probably change the results, right?
Definitely,
Okay.
100%, because this is very much due to the hours of service.
And in general, the idea or the current opinion is that electrification will become prior to automation.
Oh, okay.
Because other than in California, for example, we have quite strict regulations regarding automation as well. So even if we get like technically level 3 automation to be possible, we will still have actually until there won't be any driver sitting in the truck like 6 and 5 6 that's quite long in the future.
I do have one question. When you have the share of trucks electrified, how were those trucks picked?
Yeah.
Were they picked randomly?
Yeah.
So would it not make sense that this would maybe be a fleet level decision? Like it doesn't make sense for one company to drive one electric truck.
Yeah.
So if you correlated that, so you still shot for a total number electrified, but you said that a fleet has to have a minimum level percentage electrified, right? So that way you're not just having one truck per fleet electrified. Maybe that might change the results a little bit too, right?
Definitely, yeah. It's completely randomized. I'm not on this fleet level right now. I thought about it, yeah, but it'll take some time to implement that I don't have. But yeah, sure, for sure. Yeah, to sum it up, the highest potential is the information, so the waiting time information, the reservation between the trucks and the CPOs. The charger composition at the stations itself is subject to optimization. And the stop strategy, how intelligent I plan my stops, is even more important for the high electrification rate, as there are more trucks competing for the limited charging infrastructure. Everything needs to be considered in terms of the successful rate of trucks. As on the left side, this farthest reachable strategy doesn't result in very much successful trucks or many successful trucks, but there are at the end of the simulation still quite a lot of trucks in operation, which changes for the heuristic case, so the 3 bars next to it. Just to highlight it, that you can't only look at this successful trucks and their trip duration, but also need to consider the trucks that actually get stuck because they can't reach a station, or that are still in operation because it just takes too much time.
Yes, so maybe just really briefly, one of our other colleagues, so that was Niclas research, another colleague of ours is looking at starting from or really looking into the flexibility trading bit again of what Marcel is looking at in this research. Tom Winkler is now looking into what we also talked about briefly, how the touring or the dispatching should now need to change given the electrification of the different economic potentials of flexibilities. Basically, you see the dispatch plan of one of our fleets in picture A and how that would switch in picture B. In that case, he didn't do any optimization, he just changed the dispatching. And he's looking into how much revenue would be possible to generate from that. And yeah, he's now using, or again, he's looking into the debate, given that the border, like we need to look at the whole country, even better look at beyond the borders. So he's really looking at how that would change his optimization. And yeah, just if you're interested, he's within the operations research topic of scheduling problems. He's looking into he's basically following this tree and looking into this long name model. So again, the connection between energy and the flexibility or the tracking, the true planning and dispatching. And those are his research topics. So again, what is the economic potential? Also, how should the optimal fleet composition change and look like given the change of dispatch? And yeah, what are the resulting recommendations he would give? So he's also looking at policy recommendations for truck manufacturers, policymakers, and fleet operators resulting out of this optimization. And yeah, what I'm looking at is more of all the other topics are now looking into more like if we have 100% electrification, for example, how would the charging network look like, or how would the reservation system look like? And I really try to narrow it down again to why don't we actually have 100% electrified fleets yet? So what is basically resisting or constraining fleet transition, electrification? And what I notice is it mainly comes down to the haulage company or the fleet operators who need to decide to electrify their fleets. So basically we have this, in this case, we have now a fleet operator who's willing to actually electrify or buy electric trucks. And of course, the question now arises, how can he actually, or he or she manage to transition to that electric trucks in the fleet? And the problem is that we encountered in discussions with haulage companies that way more questions actually come up if you ask that question. For example, how should they plan charging stations, or does the existing grid connection, of course, cover the required charging power? How about how should they deal with uncertainties and energy prices, new technologies? Does battery storage system, photovoltaic systems make sense for them, and so on? Shortly said, the freight forwarder is simply overwhelmed with this flood of questions and topics he needs to be an expert in, which of course he isn't, because it's no other domain. And that's basically the quite superficial motivation I'm using in my research. And yeah, the target vision I'm envisioning for my optimization problem is the following. So I'm looking at one specific haulage company, one specific fleet operator who has a certain monetary sum available for the year. And I'm creating this plan giving the historic diesel telemetry data like driving profiles and given historical load profiles. At what points in time should this specific fleet operator exchange which of his trucks with what kind of bets? I think that's also quite similar to what you did. And how should accordingly to that, the charging system, battery storage system, and photovoltaic system and grid system be sized stepwise, given a certain investments and available. So of course that's yeah, a nice picture for lots of optimizations running. And so what I'm currently doing, or I'm following different methodological steps in my approach. Everything, of course, starts with the data I showed to you before. So it's 160 diesel trucks, 6 different haulage companies. Well, I'm well aware that that's not fully representing all of the fracking industry in Germany and in the European Union, but yeah, I'm using that as a base to build my model. Yeah, after collecting the data, I did pre-processing and anonymization, which I told you about. And this is now the input for first step in my model, which was doing a operational pattern analysis. So I analyzed the data with regards to the electrification potential, and also how easy is it actually to electrify the current fleets, and how depending on different driving profiles, what tourists or what what kinds of fleet operators or fleet operators need to look more detailed into what trucks to electrify first. So how much do they actually differ? Yeah, so I did that, and I also, to make my later on simulations possible, I also did the removal of unsuitable tracks, of course, and created a workflow for automatically interpolating data gaps. So I don't have gaps shorter than 30 seconds in my simulation data. Yeah, to make later on simulations possible, basically. And in this case, maybe just interestingly, I guess you know now what data I use, and the median tour length in this case was actually only 80 kilometers. And sorry, it's in kilometers, but 80 kilometers, and 75% of the data was shorter than 205 kilometers. And this, in combination with the ample dwell times we noticed, so lots of resting idle at the depots, shows us that in this case, for those freight forwarding companies, beds are actually highly suitable, especially for the regional transport. And this is just motivation or database motivation for that.
So
yeah,
I assume they just go like from main manufacturing towns to the ports, basically.
Yes.
Because that's the distance. I mean,
yeah,
they are definitely not traveling around here with this distance.
No, it's like in some cases shortly over the border. For in one freight forwarding company we logged is traveling lots to Poland, but it's the distances are not that long. Yeah, so it's mainly regional German transport. Yeah, and the paper for that, like the data and the open source model, is hopefully next week going like online, so I can send you the paper if you're interested in that.
That'd be great.
So for the data, I mean, it looks like you have all the GPS trajectories of all the trucks. Is there any kind of a privacy concern?
Yeah.
All of this.
So in what's basically everything that's been published has been anonymized, so we don't show specific trajectories that have been driven, and we only use this semantic classification I showed you. For example, this plot where we only know, oh, that's something that's been published. In the simulation, the background, I have the more detailed data, but of course I can only publish analysis and results out of that can be anonymized.
So there's some regulation on the privacy in Europe on the projected data?
And in that case, it was more like individual decisions with the haulage companies.
Okay.
So yeah.
So basically you aggregate them.
Yeah.
When published.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, not so the data is still available per fleet, but what we show has been discussed with the haulage companies. So we are allowed to show, for example, how long they're driving, what times they're driving, where they're standing at, but we don't show the specific tours.
Okay.
So there's no GPS connection connected to that. No.
Right. Yeah, actually, I've been doing some research, try to anonymize, try to make the privacy preserved of the trajectory. So if you're interested, yeah, I don't know if that would be helpful.
Yeah.
You have any discussion?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Yeah. So
Questions?
I'm sorry.
When you compute the tour duration distance, so do you consider a single trip or kind of trip chain for the?
Both. So in that case, when I'm talking about tours, I'm meaning like depot to, or home to home depot, and we talked about that. I do look at multiple home tags. So one freight forwarding company can have multiple home locations. But I'm looking at home to home, and a track is from start to stop. So a tour consists of multiple tracks. So that basically that's now the input for my simulation. And in the next step, I'm now turning the diesel trucks into battery electric trucks. So yeah, and there's the longitudinal dynamics model in the background running. And I basically ran an analysis of first in the, so it's really small, but on the left-hand side, you see basically gets the SSC rate, how many tours of that specific fleet would fail. So basically everything under the dash line would fail. So we see that, for example, freight forwarder 4 in my case dated most of the long haul tours. So if just electrifying everything blindly, of course, lots of their tours in that case would fail. However, we see that most cases for the other freight forwarding companies, most tours would actually be feasible to be fully electrified. And in the next step, I then assigned different charging options. So the trucks and all of my simulation now can charge with different charging powers at their home depots with 50, 150, and 350 kilowatts. And I also looked at different battery capacities. So in my case, my trucks have a battery capacity of 572 kilowatt hours, which is the average of the most available battery capacities currently in European markets.
So if the trucks were loaded, what would be the range with that?
The range would be then around 500 kilometers. And then I also looked at, based on literature, of what would be the maximum battery capacity, given different trade-offs, which in my case was 798 kilowatt hours, and how that would change where the energy would have to be recharged. So basically, that's what you see in the right plot, and how much energy would could be just recharged at the home depot. And also, what is the different potential if we could have the possibility of charging when unloading and loading the truck at the industrial sites at the destination. So basically, I answer the question where the most potential lies in charging infrastructure. Again, if you're interested in that, I'm free to send you the paper hopefully next week. Yeah, so that was the result. And quite interestingly, or again, really surprisingly, positively, we see that depot charging alone enables 88% of all of our tours at high power. So if we have a charging infrastructure with 350 kilowatts at the home depot, if we now have the possibility of charging at when loading and unloading the truck at industrial sites, we reduce the reliance on public charging to 15%. So only 15% of the energy would have to be recharged publicly. And if we have large batteries also, we increase this viability to 89%. So there's quite some potential of just looking at home depots and the charging infrastructure there. Which is why this now motivates my next step, where I looked at how the charging or the load profiles creating just from charging would look like at the specific home depot. So I basically translated again the energy consumption simulation into the load profiles for the specific depot, and also looking at how the different charging infrastructure scenarios I just show you would change, of course, the maximum grid capacity. Yeah, I did look again at multiple scenarios, did a state of charge analysis, looking also at different variations in state of charge, with what state of charge the trucks arrive at home, and what grid connection would result out of each. And this again serves me now as an input for doing a depot electrification optimization. So I'm now looking into what, given that, or in the first step, I looked at given 100% of electrification. So now using all the data I just simulated, which simulated the whole diesel truck fleet into electric truck fleets, how would now, for that specific depot where I looked at the load profiles, the optimal sizing of the photovoltaic system, battery storage, charging station, and grid connection look like at 100% electrification rate?
I mean, so it's a joint optimization where
Yes.
you optimizing battery size, but also power and everything. Okay, wow.
So it looks into a programming approach. And yeah, but that's only looking at the full electrification, of course, which isn't what I really wanted to. I guess I motivated the stepwise approach, which is why I'm now currently looking into multi-step level approach. So I'm varying different fleet electrification degrees and how they would result in different like sizing component or different optimizations or sizing of the components in a stepwise manner. And currently, as you might imagine, there's quite a bit. So I'm working on that. And in the end, to make everything understandable and I guess, usable for fleet operators, I created a dashboard where fleet operators can input data they have available. So for example, average tour distances or average times of arrival when the trucks arrive when they leave. And there's no optimization, of course, running in the dashboard because that takes a bit of time, but they can now simulate how that at what times and points in time there would be a break-even point if they were to electrify their fleets. And the idea would be in the end to make my optimization visible in the dashboard.
That's a stupid question. Does it make sense to consider, you said the average of the tour length?
Yeah.
Don't you want to consider the maximum tour length instead? Because I mean, if, okay.
In that case, it actually came out of discussions with fleet operators that
Okay.
the most often know the average. That they don't, or like if they take some statistics or if they just have some brief interview questions.
Another percentile?
Yeah.
So why not? Because then if they undersize their batteries, their tours, they won't be able to compete, no?
Yeah. But in this case, I'm not, or in this dashboard, I'm not looking into battery components yet. It's more of like looking into average fleet electrification. And yeah, that's also open source. If you want to have a look at it, I can also send you the link to that. And yeah, maybe just I know this is a bit overpowering, but it's a quick insight how the single period of electrification looks like. So I'll briefly guide you through just so you know what's happening.
That's a beautiful graph.
So basically what you see here is for two different freight forwarding companies. So company A and company B. I looked at two different analysis situations. So branch A is branch one is if we have exact mobility data, so the GPS data I have. And branch two now looked at this interview data I just mentioned. So if I just have average numbers, how if I try to synthesize them into the same log files, basically, how much would the results differ in regards to sizing? That was the analysis I did here. So there were in the second branch, that's like a dispatching algorithm behind it, and basically trying to recreate the actual data synthetically. And how well or how much would the sizing change? And now if we see the energy component or the energy components and power components of each or the sizings of the energy storage system, the battery, the low tag system and grid. And then you can have a look into different scenarios. So the scenarios of how much is the charging power available at home. So for example, if we take now charging power of 350 kilowatt. And we look at the battery cost. So the sensitivity parameter we look at is the battery cost, how much that would change. If we take a pessimistic, so really high price for that, and look at what the sizing of the energy storage system would have to look like for the company A, branch one, we see that in that case, if we have realistic data, that kinds of scenario parameters, the energy storage system would have to be sized at around, or the optimization sizes the component at around 170 kilowatt hours. That's how you basically can understand this. And those are the analysis, or the things I'm basically analyzing and to see how different degrees of data fidelity as well as different cost parameters and price levels would change the sizing. Yeah. So just some insights. And yeah, it's very bad, but that's my first try of doing this now in a multi-optimization run. So basically I'm now looking into different time zones and how should the sizing be done in a stepwise manner if we have a certain amount of money available per year. But that's still under development, just to know how that translates into that. Yeah, and basically again, what I'm looking at is is how can the local energy systems and charging infrastructures and logistics that those be techno-economically optimized to support truck fleet electrification in a phased and stepwise manner, and everything based on historical data.
So stupid question, do you take into account the environmental gains of removing diesel?
Yes, yes,
You
that's
do? Oh,
actually
nice.
lying in the back of this in this simulation currently. So I have a CO2 price that's being taken into consideration, and that's also ramping up. So that's the current progression or the current assumption that what we got from data that the CO2 price is ramping up.
Oh, you're looking at CO2, what about particulate matter?
That no, only CO2, yeah. And also how strict you are, yeah. And how how or conservative or pessimistic the CO2 restrictions will be. That's how they change, of course, the sizing components.
We can also take into account maybe some local government needed job retraining programs, and the cost of those.
It's only, fully restricted, yeah. I'd love to in the end, but first I need to get that running properly.
Without revealing any private information, the 6 fleets, how do they operate, mainly in urban areas or all over? Meaning,
All over, yeah. Most of them have short tours, as you said, as I showed you in the data. So 77% are shorter than 215 kilometers, which means they don't drive really long routes.
But the question is more again related to air pollution. Do they drive mostly in urban environments or in the countryside? Or in Germany, Germany is pretty densely populated,
Yeah,
but
that's
you still
why.
have big forests, right? Of course.
But then it's more for urban areas, so they
Okay.
they aren't in big forests.
Germany doesn't really have the suburban sprawl. that's
No.
needed.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a truck drive 100 kilometers through 2-story buildings.
No, that doesn't happen. Just, I guess it's everything urban then, yeah. Yeah, and then just a last bit of research, it's close to 2, so if anyone has an appointment,
We will make it quick.
yeah. So
So this is Fabian. He's looking one step further in the future because he includes the automated trucks if they drive completely autonomously, or let's say level 4 and then level 5. So the thing is, when you use automated trucks, you have some potentials in terms of slow charging, as when you think of trucks being exchanged, they drive a specific amount of distance, let's say 250 kilometers. What's that? 200, 180 miles, I don't know. They can switch the tractor, and the trailer just gets a new tractor, and then it continues. It's such a hub-to-hub operation. And in that case, you are not restricted to the pausing times, what we already discussed, of the drivers, and the tractors can charge a bit longer. And so you have less charging power necessary, meaning grid extension costs can be reduced, and also the operation costs. And due to that, you can also downsize the batteries when you only need to drive this shorter distances. So the tractors itself get cheaper, and of course energy consumption gets lower, and you might even higher energy system integration potential, and can couple it even better with renewables, with the flexibility for EV cases for sure. It's daily changing energy production. And of course, well, if they can drive during the night, you can align it to the traffic on the highways. How does it look like? If you think of, guess you won't know Hanover, it's not that common. But it's for German related, it's quite large. So think of a tour from Munich to Hanover. At a level 4 automation, you would start your tour with manual driving. So there's a driver from the depot to the station close to the highway. And then there's the switch of the tractor where the automated tractor takes the trailer and drives it 250 kilometers to the next hub's station, where again a tractor change takes place. And at the last station, there's again the switch to manual driving. So you have the level 4 on highways, which might be the first automation level to be implemented. Level 5 would then be the whole tour being autonomously for sure. And one question he investigates is, well, how can such a hub system be designed in the end? Where to place those stations, those swap stations of the tractors? And he's doing this also with simulations. Actually, he's also using an agent-based simulation. It's Maxim. I don't know if you've heard of it. Yeah. He says it's a bit of pain in the ass, to be fair. He's not that happy with it. So we read your project. We use a different one.
Well, unfortunately, the beam model is based on that. So
Oh no. Okay.
it is.
It's California money, so we have to spend money. But thank you for the information.
Yeah, well, he has a master student working on a Python approach to somehow do it there. Yeah, so he has initially the hub location planning, where to place those stations, then how to do the dimensioning in terms of chargers itself, how large the power must be. Also, how large the battery storage must be of those tractors. And in the end, the energy system integration, also with bidirectional charging, to use the flexibilities you have in that case. Yeah, using a simulation model, this is Maxim, as you can see here. Different scenarios, which you can vary. The level 0 is always the baseline where he makes the comparison to. And right now he gave me those slides where he varied the battery size and the charging power to evaluate the potential of those different levels of automation. What you can see on the left side, the lower line is the level 5 automation, which has the highest potential of reducing costs. Level 0, well, obviously is the most expensive one. Of course, because you have the drivers which need to get paid. And yeah, somehow you have with medium distances between the hubs, the highest potential. The SOC min is out of his simulation, is just the decision when to charge at a station. If it's lower than, in this case, 0.2, 20%, he decides, okay, I need to charge. Other parameter would be 0.5. Okay, if I'm lower than 0.5, I will charge, otherwise I won't. Just a parameter variation. On the right side, the variation of the battery capacity and how the OPEX are reduced. Level 0 spaces and level 4 and level 5, resulting, of course, in lower OPEX for higher automation, basically. Yeah. In the end, yeah, you have both sides again. On one side, the utilization for secondary use case, which is the bidirectional charging, the energy system, how to integrate it. But on the other side, for the logistic company itself, the primary use case, which is, of course, the driving. the fulfillment of my trips and my operation. So somewhere in between, there's this optimal trade-off between flexible driving and as much driving as possible. And he's looking at that to somehow find this optimal operational strategy for automated trucks in the end. To close our presentation, which I know, I'm sorry for that. We came here. We are very happy to be here to present our research, and just want to mention that we are very open and would be very happy to somehow do some research visits. If the PhD wants to come to TUM, to our chair, we are very open to host. Also would be happy to somehow come here for some research visits. To collaborate in publications for sure. Maybe the differences between German markets, US markets, and so on, which are, I guess, quite different, and how to investigate that. And we also looked a bit into research projects, if there are possibilities. There is some NFS DFG collaboration, but we weren't sure how open that is, or if this is currently open. The website wasn't that informative either.
Nobody knows.
Downsizing.
But something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah, hosting is no problem. I mean,
That's cool.
welcoming people for a few weeks.
yeah, I mean, at our chair, everyone tries to have one research visit externally at some university during his PhD.
How long, typically?
Maximum 2 months.
Oh,
2 to
yeah.
3, no?
Maximum 2 months.
2 to 3, I think. Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Only 15 minutes from the beach, by the way.
That's amazing.
Actually, I was with visiting student from your university, but he did his undergrad study from TUM. But he was a PhD at Denmark University.
Okay, that's amazing. And he did his PhD?
He did his PhD at the Denmark University of Technology. He visited us for a couple of months, I believe.
That's amazing, yeah. Yeah, it would be really cool if we could someone collaborate in that
Yeah,
case.
that's so. I think that's the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure, it's really cool.
And of course, if someone wants to come to Munich, I mean, we don't live 50 minutes to the beach.
Well,
but-
you have October first. Beautiful city, great nightlife.
We will have a conference at your university. I don't know if you're aware of it. It's an international symposium on transportation and traffic theory. One of the major, once every 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, in July.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, we organize various events every year. We try to have it.
ISTT. ISTT.
STTT.
Yeah, STT.
Yeah, nice.
Let's talk about it. That's cool. So,
Researchers.
This is great. Do you want to have a few minutes for question, and then we have Niclas present, and then you can have a meeting with the students if you guys want, or if you want coffee or anything after long seminars. So do you want to take a few questions if people have questions?
Yes. To sum it up, of course, thank you very much for
Yeah.
inviting me.
I guess it's a bit of a controversial question, but Germany is known for the car manufacturing, right? So how does this affect your research? Because I assume they are happy to, like take advantage of the electrification and so on, but I'm also sure that they want to keep, like all the German manufacturers selling these vehicles. How do you handle this?
Actually, a really good thing is that it's enforced by law. So we need to, by the European Union, we need to set or get or achieve certain targets regarding electrification. So by 2045, 90% of the produced trucks need to be zero emission. So I guess that answers your question as a way that there's no option. So
Well, there is the option of not following the law.
Yeah.
We are good at passing.
But it's quite pricey if you
Yeah.
don't follow it, so
Okay.
what you have to pay as a fee, the fees you have to pay if you don't follow the law are quite high. So I guess that would destroy your business model if you don't follow it.
Yeah, I guess my question is that do you think that the German companies are like leading the market? Can they compete against the famous BYDs and so on?
Like you have Lion, isn't Lion at the beginning, isn't that a Chinese company?
Nice one is actually from our chair. It's a battery producer. Yeah, well, of course, Asian brands and OEMs are rising, especially in the Asian market for sure. It's hard to get in there, same as in for electric vehicles itself. In European market, I would say the European brands will make the run will be in lead in electrification.
Mercedes is
Yeah.
investing, right?
Yeah, Mercedes is the
Volvo also in, Sweet.
yeah, but I would say European, yeah. Mhm.
Of course, the market minds are shifting, yeah. I guess we'll see how that's developing.
Because I'm sure that what they would do is sitting themselves in the food, right? Like saying,
Yeah.
oh, let's well, we know a bit about that in America, right? We would, I think everyone would love to see electric trucks out there. We don't have any big companies probably competing in the market.
Tesla.
Yeah.
Tesla, yeah, but they've been slow.
The Freightliner part of Daimler. It's not the focus in with Daimler to electrify here in the US, but more the European market and afterwards the American market. That's what I know at least from rumors. But yeah.
So is there any in the European logistic companies are willing to adopt electric vehicles, electric trucks? Because when you purchase the electric vehicle trucks, you need to pay a little 10 to 20% more, right?
They're more and more accepting the fact that in the whole TCO calculation, it does make sense. So already now it makes sense for at least German haulage companies to actually buy battery electric trucks instead of the new diesel trucks. So I guess it comes more down to being willing to change and being willing to convince the drivers that there might be some difficulties here and there if charging infrastructure doesn't work, but they can adapt. So it is actually more of like a human perspective of the drivers that they're willing to change.
Maybe another case. How about the logistic company, they own the trucks about 100%, while in Korea, typically the individual owner, driver itself, they are owner of the trucks. So they do contract with the logistic companies. So like certain time period. So
different options. The data we just showed to you is they're all owning the trucks. So it's actually the logistics companies, they're also the fleet operators, which is why we are able to actually install our loggers. But it is quite common to have to make that separate. So you have logistics companies and you have fleet operators, and they own the trucks. It's not as common for individual people to have an own truck and be hired. What we heard is quite common here. That's not as common, but it also happens in Germany.
In terms of purchasing, most companies have some leasing contracts.
I mean, I think the theme there is who's accepting the risk of the transition. When we've talked to fleets, you know, I think there's an understanding that the technology is close, or if not there, but there is risk in assuming that, and so many of these fleets are operating in really tight margins, that accepting that risk is a problem, which is why I mentioned the truck as a service model, which was sort of carved, well, a couple of years ago, we were already carved, and we were saying, hey, you know, fleets are not happy about this. And they pointed to truck as a service as the model for the transition to, because those leasing companies essentially assume the risk. And in fact, they embraced that risk they went out and partnered with the major players, Amazon and such, to basically demonstrate through pilots that their technology could work, and then took that back to operators and said, hey, if you lease with us, we've already demonstrated this works and we can probably get you jobs with these companies. So it created this kind of interesting kind of middle market where they were trying to solve the technological problem.
Proving ground.
Right, well, and assuming the risk that the independent operators weren't willing to take, so, and that was kind of driven by the regulatory thrust that was thrown out there and now it's been pulled back. So, and then there was a lot of the incentivization money in there to kind of grease the wheels, so. We'll see how things shake out now that the environment has changed a bit.
Sure. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Do we want to take like a 2-minute break and then we have Niclas and Niclas?
Nicholas.
Okay. Who's gonna jump in for us?
Okay.
Yeah. Don't go anywhere. Thank you.
It's very hard to work. Yeah, I've done this in fact. So let me know when it's one.
Okay, yeah.
I got these emails and
It's very, very clean and very.
I think
not the regular purchase.
Yeah, the purchase.
Yeah, and you can see. Go to the link I sent you, like there are multiple tabs. It will be a challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's, you don't often see. Let's go here. Yeah. So how does your funding do?
I'll set it here, but I need it.
Governmental funded.
Okay.
But the chair, our institute gets paid and we get groups by the.
And for.
Very flexible.
It's an interesting. Depending on what.
Yeah.
Well, the work you
Let
do
me
is
know what I need to do for that.
Yeah.
Other people do it.
Yeah.
I work with my little searches.
Yeah, it's kind of an expectation we're gonna do that.
So.
How does it look in Belgium?
Usually PhD trajectories are 4 years.
Besides that,
That's
yeah.
really good courses. So you're in a teaching assistant and it's 6.
Be working about all of them.
Because
I think it's
the division of sections and 6%.
I'm not
40%.
Yeah.
You get a bit of extra time. Definitely in the beginning, you need a lot of time to get to know stuff.
See dynamism, so the forecasting.
Yeah, and near the end, you
We're trying to understand what that is.
Are you working with David?
David. Yeah, the David. Like, oh, maybe. Can't we model something else? Understand what we're modeling.
Yeah. I mean, that model's been around for a while.
Okay, so you enjoy your stay right now?
You're finally has the data.
Same situation.
I know what's going on.
That's very I was in London, so I went to see. Unfortunately, it was 0-0.
Yeah, well, the Davids, I think, understand
What's
what's going on in
Yeah,
it.
it wasn't
So maybe just like, how much is it?
because I didn't have to pay my tickets and my stay and my food.
Mm.
I paid a bit more.
It's different.
I paid the $500.
Contributing to that.
Yeah, and I was like 5 rows away from the. So it was insane.
Well,
that's good.
Yeah, but they don't work with MATLAB.
Right.
David bunch
It Oh,
of
was a goal, but it.
they're not willing to share
For
yet because they're
And
wanting to like,
it got,
get it to stable version.
Support technical was upside.
So,
They're we can help you, but they don't.
Yeah, so
We have
everyone did.
older MATLAB file, which may not be the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, and I wanted to try to make the best of
Just what it's doing.
Yeah.
I had a contact with a Dutch delegation that was also planned a trip before EBS and was going to EBS. And I
join the workshop. How does that turn into a workshop? Yeah, it was just working workshop. I used to go. Yeah, I kind of paid my
Maybe you can see a little iceberg.
which was interesting. Oh, thank you.
Sure, sure.
The old one was not.
So it's always. But it's. But yeah, you never heard of rubber band on it.
So what's the reason?
I thought they had built a model. Vehicle choice. Models out. Choice model.
The TCO model was better.
You might even want to turn it on.
Back to feedstocks. That's part of the issue.
It's very soft.
I don't even.
With LCFS.
Oh, you're fine, yeah.
And we're modeling arms regulation.
They do go
So
over
they basically want,
I saw one.
in order to drive the transition that they were targeting at the time, they clearly know by 2025.
Because what I.
They were gonna have to incentivize. I can show you. To achieve that. Okay, nice.
So what it does is.
The model itself is based upon, the cost. Pathway towards that transition, modeling, reduction. Component costs.
It's always good.
Circular optimization, modeling costs, and then, anyway, it was but everything's not really well, because it's regulation.
And the answer.
But anyway, like, if you're doing.
It's just understanding.
Very likely.
Might be useful to us everywhere.
Giving us access to the cameras. Didn't work properly.
Something that the. How long?
Like, this is the property of OCTA, but yes, to say that it's.
That's fine.
So it's the same thing, right?
You have experience with the models, so the logic behind it.
Someone else is storing.
Something we know. It's just the fact of bringing together
the industry, incorporating that
in theory, project managers of our, because everything they got up, like, how are they doing? How are they relaxed? And they said, well, they are working on it's useful, but I have the name on the phone and the email of our thing is project managers. We'll get to work on yeah, if someone really wants to look at that.
One more question that might be and then hopefully I can ask this and then
Survey work. How many PhDs? The one was funny, so if you know, in the middle it knocked down power lines. It rode out across the road. There's trees everywhere. So we got stuck for 5 hours. And when I was driving out, I drove into a downtown. It was like driving this way out of the power line and the cable came into the road and it just kind of went across. And it was like last minute I saw it. Wasn't that bad. It was just I don't have to pay for it yet. We made it back in 6 months.
then they also
Sometimes you can. Sure. I don't know where it works in Germany, but if you start a company. Oh, yeah. Sometimes you only find out. Well, that's how you. Yeah, so basically,
They might not. Not for
traffic, we see and then another one is well, three candidates. How are the candidates because right now profiles are that's going to have a professor position or two. Many years. And then we have another one, actually just a good profile, but not fit for the position. So we have a shared position with the we noticed that AI and vacancy, we get a little sleepy on the so making a promise in our mind towards the using okay. And the final one was I haven't done that. I mean, he has a good
Oh, yeah, ever be developed. Okay.
Yeah, so when you go, you take it.
Something we.
No, no, no. Maybe that as well. But yeah, that's an extra.
Over the mountain. Out on the west.
Let's give Niclas a chance.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, great job.
Afternoon. It's a bit of a surprise for me, even that I'm standing here.
Yes, yes, yes.
So similar to Anna and Niclas, I was supposed to present at EVS, got cancelled unfortunately. I'm trying to make the best of this trip. I emailed Matthew, or Matt, what should I say, Matt? Yeah,
Works.
To have a meeting because I saw that his research lines align sort of with what we do at Mobi. So we had that meeting this morning, and now I'm here presenting exactly the same, just general the research group. So I work as a postdoctoral researcher for the VUB, so that's a Free University of Brussels. Free because we're not really, we have Catholic universities in Belgium as well, but we're not really linked historically to any religion. Based in Brussels, capital of Belgium, also where the European Commission is located. And we have some links and works we do for the European Commission as well. So where it all started. So this is a picture of our one of our buildings on our campus, and actually also a picture of the early EVs we had on our campus with a range. Sorry,
What brand was that?
I should ask my the director of our lab. I don't know by heart.
Oh, okay.
Must be honest, these are quite general slides. Slides that I usually don't present. I usually leave it up to my director of the research group. So specific questions I will redirect to Yuri van Winden. But as you can see, so yeah, 50 years ago, we had some electric vehicles and some initial electric charging infrastructure on our campus. We still do. The cars are a bit bigger now, they're a bit more modern, and the charging infrastructure is more diverse as well. Right. So who are we? We are, not to brag, but we're the largest electric research hub in Europe. I say that up in full modesty. So we have 50 years of EV pioneering research, and we have more than 120 team members. So we have almost 100 PhDs actually working in our team. And here you can see a picture of our last team building we did, where not everyone could join, but most of them were there. We're quite diverse. We have 23 nationalities. In Europe, of course, it's quite easy to get different nationalities, but still, we have people from the Middle East, from Asia, from a few from South America. I don't know if we have American students. Maybe I would need to check, but I have a Mexican colleague at least. So a diverse group. These kind of numbers I won't go into detail on because it's sort of a background. So the turnover is shown here in 2023. We have a lot of projects we work on. Currently 35 European projects. And if I would need to look over the whole group, most of our funding comes from European projects. So that's building on experience and tools we have already developed. And now using to further the knowledge in the. Okay. So we're a large research hub. We're set up with five research labs working on different fields within electric mobility. So the first one I want to talk about is the Battery Innovation Center. So that's mostly made up by chemists. So we have a battery lab where we can really develop new battery cells, but also do testing on battery packs, run cycles at different temperatures, different loads, etc. And then we have the Merlin group, who's working on lighting. So that's here, the smallest group in our research group. They look at what signaling can do for new electric mobility, but also what lighting has of an impact on the ecosystem, on animals even, so bugs, how can we prevent excess lighting, what is that of influence on upcoming traffic, etc., etc. Then ePowers is one of the largest groups within our MOBI group. They focus on power electronics, so efficient power electronics, powertrain, as well, making digital twins for electric converters, doing fault detection for wind turbines, for example. What else do they do? Develop more new charging infrastructure. Also have experience in heavy duty trucks, developing megawatt charging systems, etc. Then Evergy is a group working on accelerating the energy transition, also a quite diverse group. Working on, I have a slide on this, I'll show it later. They work on a lot of things, so I'll show you that. And then finally, and that's the group I know the best because I'm part of that one, is electric and autonomous vehicles. So we do socioeconomic research, both on electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. So we are part of the faculty of business and technology operations and Solvay Business School, and the other ones are actually part of the faculty of engineering. So mostly engineering in our group, and we are then making sure that it's a multidisciplinary team where we do the socioeconomic research. This is how we're set up. So we have our director who usually gives this presentation. So Professor Yuri Van Milo, who's also involved in the scientific committee of EVS. And then we have our 5 groups, and business developers, postdoctoral researchers, and project management. And on the right-hand side, you can see my professor, Lieselot van Haverbeke, who's leading the team of the electric and autonomous vehicles. And then Professor Evie Rombold, she's the lead for the AV, so the autonomous vehicle team, and I'm the lead for the electric vehicle team. If you have questions or anything you want to say, please don't hesitate. Just ask. All right. This is a slide I skipped earlier with Matthew. So this is a Battery Innovation Center. So it gives an overview of what they do. So they provide several things, which I'm not really familiar with, but I'll give you some time to read. Yeah.
One question.
No problem.
Are they also looking into degradation modes of batteries and doing experiments or modeling in that case?
Yes. So it's partly here, second life performance and modeling. I know that they have test setups. So it's huge chambers where they can regulate the temperature, and they run cycles through the batteries and then do measurements and then put those measurements into modeling. Yeah. So they're actually, they're working
on cell level in that case.
Yeah, cell level and pack level as well. Okay. Yeah. Used to do quite some testing for companies, but I recently spoke to one of their postdocs. And apparently, the companies are now investing more into those testing facilities. So they're losing a bit of business in testing battery packs and battery cells.
So that's interesting. You also have digital twins for your batteries.
Yeah, indeed. Yes. All right. Go back to what I know. The best is electric and autonomous vehicles. So we have 3 research lines within our team that we focus on both for electric and autonomous vehicles. So the first one is the charging infrastructure strategies using advanced location and phasing models. There for electric vehicles, we have a cooperation with the Brussels government, where we now think for the 5th or the 6th year, we help them determine where on-street public charging infrastructure should go. With that, we had a PhD student who finished last year that developed a model making actually a combination of a coverage model and a demand model. So with a coverage model, you want to try to reach as many people as possible. So looking at the demographics of the area. And with a demand model, you want to increase the use. So you look at the use of the existing infrastructure and you're trying to place another station close to it. Explaining it very simple, but that's in essence what happens. And what he did, he saw the literature evolution of both models was happening. And I said, yeah, what would be nice if we would combine them. So he made a sort of hybrid model with a parameter where we could shift between both models and use a combination of both. So the parameter is on 0, it's on coverage, 1 is on demand, and we try to find an optimum between both. And now we're actually just finished the works we done with the Brussels government, where we used that hybrid model for the 2nd time to determine the next 500 new charging stations that will be placed in their environment. We're also from the AV side looking into where should charging infrastructure be placed in the future, based on taxi data we have from Chicago, where we try to find a balance between one, the mobility, but otherwise the energy demand. So autonomous vehicles will be more efficient in their trips, well, efficiently used, let's say. And we're looking into still with their idle time, can we use the batteries that are inside those autonomous vehicles, use them with V2G to provide grid services similar to what was presented earlier with the trucks, and make a sort of a balance between the mobility side and then the energy side. Okay, then second is the user acceptance and trust within a societal readiness framework. So there is a flagship project we're working with the European Commission, where we do for the European Alternative Fuel Observatory, we're doing the consumer monitor. So we launched a survey for all EU27 member states, where we're doing that also now for the 4th time, I think, or the 5th time, where we launched a survey to all drivers in the European Union, and we check on what their attitude, what their compatibility is, what their acceptance is towards electric driving, both for BEV drivers, existing BEV drivers, and non-BEV drivers.
Does it have a self-driving component?
No, not yet. We're looking into that, trying to, or we're going to do that, setting a sort of a consumer monitor for autonomous vehicles as well. But that's not for this year, but future plans. And then the deployment economics side is mostly looking at the financial side, so TCO, so total cost of ownership calculations, and cost-benefit analysis. And there we made a tool, a Logibat tool, it's called, which focuses on the total cost of ownership comparison for heavy duty. So for different sort of scenarios or different categories of trucks. I'll show that later in the slide. And then Evergy, that was the group where I was said they do a lot of stuff. As you can see, there's a lot of areas where they're involved in. So mainly what they do is look at how can we make the energy transition possible. So looking at a combination of renewables, electric vehicles, battery systems, and the grid, how we can combine them, and also look at, there's also a heavy, well, not a heavy, but a big team working on life cycle assessment within Evergy. Yes. Then the Merlin group does studies on lighting, of course. So seeing what signaling lights can do, what vehicle headlights can do, work on things I don't know a lot about, but you can see the images on the slide. All right, then we have one professor who's really an expert on standardization. He's called Peter van den Bos. He's also involved in the scientific committee of the symposium we were supposed to go to. He's really an expert on this. So if you have any questions or any things you want to discuss on standardization, I can definitely give you his contacts. Okay, and then we have ePowers. It's the largest group within our research group. So they work on power electronics, electrical machines, the powertrain, the smart grid solutions, so design and optimization and sizing. They also work on digital twins for those grid solutions, and then and reliability. Okay. Then some pictures of the labs we have. So this is the Battery Innovation Center. So as you can see, it's more of linked to chemistry. We have a dry room, we have a pilot line, we have 300 plus cell level channels, and the climate chambers. That was the thing I wanted to say. So those are the things where you can run cycles on battery packs and cells. This is also a sort of a flagship project or an important part of our research group. So we're mainly based in Brussels with a campus together with other faculties, but we also have an innovation campus. It's called the Green Energy Park, which is right outside of Brussels. And the picture you see here is actually the supercomputer that will be built on that campus. So each couple of years, a university of Belgium gets the opportunity to host the supercomputer. This period, it's up to us. And it also allows us to do, of course, heavy calculations, but we will provide also a sort of heating network, heating grid, because the supercomputer uses a lot of energy and needs a lot of cooling. And we'll use that to sort of make a microgrid on that campus. On that same campus, we have a sort of a living lab as well. So those are the guys from Evergy that are managing this. So we have a battery system, PV panels, a local grid cabin as well. We have charging stations that allow for smart charging. In the future, also V2G. Some load components, of course, to simulate loads for a typical household. And that information feeds then into the models that the engineers are building to simulate. Okay. There we stop. That's an interesting thing we discussed this morning. So we were talking about V2G and smart charging and the willingness of people to do that and put their vehicle available to do so. And there we see that actually people just are trying to, or our participants at least, are trying to cheat the system. And they are asked to fill in the amount of kilometers they're going to travel, or when do they want a certain state of charge. at a certain point, and they just give in absurd numbers to be certain that their car will be charged in the fastest way possible. So in all the simulation and modeling, sometimes the user is the most difficult component. I don't know how this is. It might be less of an issue in the heavy duty truck world still. Okay.
Yeah, well, this logistics is so conservative and
yeah. And we're running a project also. It's an Interreg project, so it's a project with different countries in. So the European Union is cut up into different regions. So we're in a project together with Sweden, Denmark, and the Netherlands, where we try to set up super smart charging hubs. It's called. You can discuss what super smart actually means. We're still trying to figure that out ourselves. But it involves VPP, so a virtual power plant. It involves smart charging and actually should involve V2G as well, and a mixed amount of chargers. But the problem there we're facing is that V2G on AC level is not yet feasible in all our countries because of the grid codes. And the compatibility that should be needed between the car, the charging station, and the grid. Although the need for V2G in certain countries, especially in the Netherlands, is very high because they have really a grid constraints. So if they want to develop new areas, getting a right grid connection is very challenging and delays projects by years. So it's an innovation they are trying to.
do you think 2G will be or is it more of a DC case?
I think in the short term, AC will be the main part, but in the future, I think DC will take over, especially looking at fast charging. But in the short term, it will be AC. In the Netherlands, they have quite a big projects going on with car sharing in Utrecht, and they're rolling that out in Eindhoven as well. Now, there was the claim in Belgium, in Ghent, that there was the first V2G pilot. We asked about that. Apparently, it's V2G ready, but it's not actually giving energy back to the grid as well. So yeah, they're still in.
Do vehicle manufacturers or batteries, do they consider, or do they allow this cycling with the grid, or would it impact the warranty on the battery?
Good question. I'm not the 100% the right person to answer that question. I know that the systems that are in place now in the Netherlands is the vehicle is Renault, the charger is linked to Renault, so can't be used by another brand. So I think if you want to have sort of a uniform system or a standard, we're not there yet. So I think the warranty is one of their concerns they have. If we don't look at what DSO wants, they're very hesitant towards it. And I wasn't surprised by the comment that they were surprised in Germany. The feedback we got, or the things I heard from the partners within the project, is that the DSO is not a cooperative partner in such endeavors. Yeah, they're really hesitant and sometimes just plainly refuse any cooperation. Which hopefully will evolve. Our colleagues from Evergy also built an EV smart charging platform where they bring together different assets into one platform where they can optimize charging power output and also have built a tool which was planned to become a sort of a spin-off idea where you could go to a project developer and
dependent on their situation. So what kind of end user profiles they had, what kind of assets that they had. So a battery system, solar panels, wind turbine, and loads and grid connection and investment budget. They could optimize towards a certain setup that would fit with that end user profiles. But I don't have the details, but if you are interested in that, I can put you into contact with the right person. And then this is more my area of expertise again. So this is a map of the Brussels capital region where you can see the installed charging points. So all these blue dots are places where a charging station was placed based on the advice we gave to the Brussels capital region. Interesting findings there is, or an interesting thing there is, it's always a discussion between eventually the commune who's responsible for their streets. So they decide if a charging station will be placed there. So they have a final say. So even if we recommend a certain spot based on several KPIs, based on an optimal situation, it's still the local commune that decides on here we allow a station or not. And this way of working makes it sometimes so that we have sort of blind spots where in a certain vicinity there is no charging station, which is a risk for future development, because installing charging stations also means that an update of the electricity grid might be needed. So it sets back certain areas in the city. And unfortunately, that's in the areas where there is, how do I say it, less developed areas already. So it sort of makes for a downward spiral, which is unfortunate.
What reasons would commune decide that they did not need it more?
Several reasons. There's reasons for fear for vandalism.
Vandalism.
Yeah, vandalism. Reasons because the parking pressure is already high, so they see a charging station as that's a spot reserved for an electric vehicle, and we know already that there's huge parking pressure. Those are things, just practical stuff. There's a lot of people with light duty vehicles that live there. They need their parking spots. You can't place it there.
So mean non-EV owners.
Yeah, indeed.
So you did the study, right? You recommended all these sites. To what extent did they follow your recommendations?
We don't have
As a
an exact
percentage.
number. We don't have an exact number, but if I would make an estimate, I would say 18 to 19%.
Okay.
It mostly comes down to like a meter or two or three, where they say no, not exactly here because it's too close to a tree. Just move it a couple of feet and it's better. Yeah. Okay, then looking at the total cost of ownership for medium to heavy duty trucks. So that's what I was talking about. We made it for different categories. So for city distribution, municipal services, regional services, shuttle services, long haul as well, and then construction. And we're having plans to also extend that for really construction machines, so bulldozers and digging machines, where there's a new component, because this evaluation is done on kilometers, and for the construction site machines, that will be by hour. So it's a new dimension.
By hour.
Per hour, yeah.
So do you have any ordinance, say, related to noise or that favor electric construction equipment?
Not to my knowledge.
Also, they have that, right?
Yeah,
They do. And to what extent is it used in Brussels then?
Well, in Brussels, it's more focused on the emissions.
Sure.
So reducing the emissions. On noise, to my knowledge, there's no.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. So my question was more, to what extent is electric construction equipment used for work within Brussels?
I wouldn't say it's used right now.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
because in Oslo, I saw numbers like over 85% of.
Yeah, I
of
think they're
websites.
obliged as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's no
There's
use of
no
that right now.
requirement in Brussels.
No,
Okay.
no. And then the European Alternative Fuel Observatory, the Consumer Monitor. So it's called EAFO, is a platform where you can find all the most up-to-date numbers on electric mobility in Europe. And we there provide a Consumer Monitor. So there's a report written from last year, and we're doing the EU27 member state survey again in 2027. So starting in January. So you can find the findings there. What we see in there is that the attitude towards electric mobility is quite positive right now in Europe. But it's more a question of does an electric vehicle fit with my daily life? So there's a large portion that's still neutral. And if you then go from neutral to the timeline, we see it diverging heavily. So it goes from very short to unknown to long term to no.
So one of the challenges is you have not many multi-family buildings in Brussels, right?
Yeah, indeed.
So isn't charging kind of a challenge in that case? If you have an EV?
Yes, but that's what we're trying to do with the public charging infrastructure.
But 500, how many people live in Brussels? Like several million, right?
Yeah, so indeed. The last number we had on coverage was I think 98% has at least one charging station close to them in a radius of 300 meters.
Oh, that's great, but what counts is also the number of electric vehicles in that.
Yeah, true.
Is great.
True. I don't know the numbers by heart,
Okay,
but I can look them up if you want. All right. And then finally our AV component. So we don't only do theoretical studies into autonomous vehicles, but also do practical setups. Currently, there's a pilot running in Leuven, where we're a following partner, seeing what the findings are there with an autonomous shuttle. We did some acceptance studies with VR goggles as well, putting people in autonomous vehicles, also checking their surroundings and how did they experience an autonomous vehicle in a new design of a street landscape.
This one is a shared electric.
Yeah,
okay.
a shared one. Yeah.
How many? So is it used for first mile, last mile, or for?
Well, this specific one is really going from point A to B. I was used on our university campus, the health campus, so the hospital campus. So really to ensure that people with minimal mobility could go from the parking lot to the entrance of the building. And the one in Leuven is going from the station to campus of another university. It's the Catholic University of Leuven. It's a bit of our competitor. So the Power Training Innovation Lab, practical setups of which I don't know that much about. Don't know if that might interest you. If you want to know more, I can direct you to the right people, but I can't say more about the pictures than what you see. We also have a DC grid and an AC grid that we mostly use for educational purposes, so to train the students. Reliability lab, smart charging lab. Again, can't really say many things more than what is on the slide. As I mainly wanted to focus on my own research in talks with Matt. We're active in network and expertise organizations. You can see here. For my colleague, that's mostly CCAM, and
EAPA, Avere, EV Belgium, the French local organizations and European organizations. Our approach is, yeah, I think quite similar to other academic institutions. So we start from our networks. We look at what the research needs is. We are in task force, working groups, foresight groups. We put that in roadmaps, vision papers, position papers, go to the European Commission, and apply for calls, write project proposals, also on a local level and federal level, write projects from that, and then to finish the loop, go into new research needs. And with that process, we try to develop our lab infrastructure as well. And we have a success rate, that means calls written out and being accepted and granted about 60%. Currently, these are the projects that are ongoing. Yeah, as a background, and our partners that were involved. So quite a few.
Some big firms too.
Yeah.
Yes, from all over Europe.
All right. That was it. If you want more information, you can scan the QR code or contact me.
There are questions for you? Or?
It was a general presentation, so I
Put you on the spot. Thank you for being so resourceful. I mean, it was good to hear from you, right? You traveled all the way, so.
maybe important. It's similar to what Anna and Niclas were saying. We as well are interested in research stays, and parts of our funding come from the federal level, and the KPIs there are publications, number of publications, PhD theses that are submitted, proposals that are written out, but also research stays. So we're motivated to have people over and to send people as well. But even professors, a visiting professor is also interesting. So
we have space. We're interested.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's it.
Great. Thank you so much.
No thanks. Yeah, all the